Here's the thing. The fitness industry is broken, but we're here to fix it. Welcome back to the Newstrength Way. We're season 2, episode 2. I've got Nath here by my side. We're going to be going through one where we think the fitness industry is really not living up to what we believe it could be for both the consumers, both the clients, and then also I think there's a big lack of direction and professionalism for the coaches. And we're going to dive into that there. We're going to dive into what we feel like the problems are, what we see the future is for the fitness industry, or at least how we want to shape the future and what we're doing about it. So, Nath, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me back, Jacob. Kept me around after the first episode.
He's made it through number 2. Let's get straight into it.
Let's.
The fitness industry. It's something that we love. We've been around it for a long time. We've seen a lot of tweaks and changes as we've come along. But a lot of these changes aren't really fixing the main issues. So, Nath, give us your rundown of what do you feel like the big problems are in the industry?
I feel like there's a lot. There is a lot of problems in the industry. I think the industry itself will have the ability to have a lot of problems in it just with how it is sold. Essentially, you always can use fitness to make obviously a physical change, and then you can monetize that and people's insecurities or whatever it may be through there. So I think the industry itself is always going to have that, and that's not going to go anywhere. I don't think. I think we in the industry can speak louder with ones with purpose and depth and integrity that are pushing it, and then we can minimize that voice. But I think that'll always be there. But with that in mind, I think the industry itself is just not people focused enough. It really isn't. It just really isn't focused enough as the consumer as an individual. So obviously they focus on the consumers, and there's the industry is a massive industry, and there's marketing and there's messaging and there's all these things going around, but it lacks depth. I think it lacks depth, it lacks understanding, and it also it lacks longevity a lot of the time in a lot of different ways. And I think because of those things, it's a very I feel like it's trying to offer the same things in a different wrapper, but it's still the exact same problem in the first place. And I think until those fundamental things are changed and we can hold a higher standard and meet individuals where they're at and give the consumer something that actually has a high amount of value, until that happens, and the industry isn't going to move forward at the rate that it should.
And to be fair, we are a growing industry. The health and wellness industry has grown year on year, every year. Even when you look at the space of COVID and a few years back there, everyone was like, well, this is the death of the fitness industry. What happened? No, it's more important than ever. Yeah. We're still growing. There's been changes, there's been shifts, and it always happens every few years. I remember when I first got into the industry, and Jess as well, Jess was teaching Zumba classes and body attack, and I'm sure these things still exist now, but haven't seen an ad for one in a long time. Yeah. Now what do you see the ads for? You're seeing the ads for Pilates is big now. Ice bars are big, and let's not get into that too much, but it's probably relevant. We're looking at what are the short fixes and rather than the big picture. And I think that's where the industry's gone wrong overall. It's everything is short term. And we said this on the last episode, that the industry itself is only new. Mm-hmm. So we're all learning the whole model itself. If you go back to looking at where the training organizations are, they're run by the same things that run commercial gyms. And what did commercial gyms want? They wanted rent from trainers. So the whole thing was set up as all right, well, cool. You'll finish this. You'll start your own thing. You'll be a sole trader, and you'll pay us $300 a week rent. What does that do is we get 20 of them, and we don't have to pay our own rent for all the stuff that we've got in here, and we get to just make money off the memberships.
Yep. Yeah. I'm surprised there's still so many people that get blown away when I say that. And they're like, oh, they're still hiring. They have these people coming through. And I was like, yeah, it's sink or swim, because it's just revenue generation. Your rent that you pay them, there's people that make it work for sure. But essentially it's you're the revenue stream. Your rent is the revenue generation. And then, like you said, you just have enough retention and you minimize utilization to make sure that you can use a small space and have a small square footage. And then you have a profitable gym model.
And there's enough people to the courses are short enough that you can fill enough people into that again and again and again, and it's lucrative because everyone pitches it's PT is $100 an hour. So you can make $100 an hour and forgetting about you've got to actually get those clients in and what are you doing in your time in between. And like nobody's actually 40 hours on the floor. Like $100 an hour, if you're 40 hours on the floor, is pretty great, but you're probably also doing 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing is set up around this misconception that really is only there to fill the big gyms with trainers and with revenue. And I think when we started from that what happened is like, there was then this shift for these independent gyms. It was like, well, how do you get out of that? You go and open your own gym and you open this smaller scale gym from there. And then what happened there is all these guys that were sole traders in gyms didn't know how to run a business. Like they didn't know how to, like, then we have to do sales. We have to do marketing. We've got to do this. And generally everyone in fitness is like, I think the thought is of sales, or it has been traditionally, is like sleazy car salesmen selling lemons. And none of us ever wanted to do it because we saw it as a negative thing. We saw the transaction of money in that there as, oh no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be one of those guys. I want to help people.
Yeah.
So we didn't learn those things as an industry. We didn't start.
Isn't that funny? Because that's the only way you can help someone.
Ultimately, like the sale is the thing it's where the most amount of power is from the most amount of momentum and energy in that cycle is the person when they're excited to like, all right, I'm finally making this change.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've got a pathway in front of me now. Like I know you do most of our sales, but I actually really love the process that there because the person is so fired up about it and I get fired up about it too.
Oh, 100%, man. It's what we do just in a really condensed shorter format. It's like creating belief, laying out a path that they can envision to going to the self they want to be. And it's putting things in place that make sense, and it's understanding them as an individual, and it's understanding the depth that they have. And that process can take time, except essentially like 100% I agree. Like when I first come into it, it's like, oh, I don't want to have to sell this or do that, except you have to, if you're doing well and you have a service that you can confidently say with conviction that is going to help the person, then to give the person the information they need and belief in themselves to make the decision to put themselves first, like it's the best thing ever. And you've seen it and I've seen it. Like think at the start of the year, some of the strong dads that come through, and like essentially I had to call them and talk to them on the phone and make sure they were the right fit and get them to believe in themselves so they could do it this time. And there's so many guys in there now that their lives are so different. And because of that, and if that didn't happen, they'd be still kicking the can down the road and thinking I'll do it when I have more time or more energy. But both of those things weren't coming.
100%. And I think like obviously what happened is we had this shift from like all these independent gyms now, but the independent gyms are run by people who didn't necessarily know how to like build themselves up and never got out of this trap of being able to get themselves into a position where they can provide careers too. And I think that's one of the big gaps in the fitness industry. And I think one of the reasons why you've got these guys who were a lot of the time running very successful communities, but they were burning the candle at both ends. They were there at 5 a.m. at the start of the day. They were leaving at 9 p.m. at night once they finished cleaning the gym and doing all the things because they couldn't provide a career outcome. And they might have had somebody covered an afternoon for them so they could get an arvo off. Yeah. They had these like part-time coaches, which are not, or casual coaches probably more accurately, that have got a day job. But those guys there, the problem with that there's never somebody that's building their way up and then there's no opportunities for the person that's in there that's a casual coach that wants to be a career coach. What do they then have to do? They had to do what we had to do and go and start your own thing. And when you start your own thing, what happens is you don't know what you're doing again.
Yeah, or leave.
Yeah.
I think the industry, to touch on that whilst you're there, like, yes, they either open their own place, and then that comes with its own complexities, don't get me wrong, but I think a lot of people just leave. And the sad thing is, Jake, like they're quality people that are most of the time in it for the right reasons, and they don't have a clear pathway that they can actually sit in where it's like, I can get paid well, I can have a family, I can support my family, and I can change people's lives.
I can go and look at, like, take my son to footy practice and coach his team. No, you got to be at work on that time there.
Yeah, exactly.
And they don't see a future because nobody's been making it for them.
Exactly.
The problem that I do see with that too is like, how does that affect the consumer? Is there's continually fresh coaches. Like there's either people that have figured it out and they've made their way down along the pathway, or there's people that are completely fresh and they don't have somebody to develop them up. The people that have made it are generally too busy to worry about trying to build up the other one. So there's a lot of this where we've talked about in other episodes of that the amount of hats that you have to wear as a coach. Like you really need to have somebody show you through that and mentor you through that process and develop up your skills, your communication skills, develop up your anatomy, your physiology, your injury prevention, rehab, all these things, because the actual training side of stuff can be in depth enough with the variety of clients that you'll end up working with. And then you have the coaching side of things. It's not the training side there, that you need to have so much understanding of psychology, anatomy, physiology, your actual communication skills, how do you interact with a group versus one-on-one, and all these things here that are quite challenging to do. But a lot of the problem comes from that there's nobody there to teach you, because you have to like basically build the plane while you're in the sky.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody there in an ascension model where it's like, okay, cool. Like I actually think that the most powerful thing that could happen to fitness, and it will never happen, would be to make it a fucking apprenticeship.
Yeah.
Like it'd be really, really hard, difficult to do, but you look at, if you're learning to build a house and you start and the first thing that you're doing is just getting the timber for the tradie.
Yeah.
Like you've got to start at a really basic level, and then you learn, and then you progress. And then before you know it, you're the one that's running the jobs and building the houses.
Yeah.
Because you learn step by step along the way, and you know that I don't have to be there straight away. The hard thing with the fitness industry is everyone expects everyone to be at the peak straight away. And then when they're not there, like you see so many of these gyms that are basically just spitting out another coach. It's like, oh no, he wasn't good.
Yeah.
Like, well, he wasn't good because you never fucking worked with him.
Yeah.
Like he didn't make it because you never spent time to teach him what he needed to learn. You just went, oh, he doesn't have it. He doesn't have the spark.
Yeah.
And then you get another person in, and maybe if you're lucky, that person goes and takes it on themselves to go and to do that extra learning in their own time to level themselves up. But that's the big problem. It's like the industry as overall, retention's really bad. Our like level of service is really bad compared to what it could be, and compared to like it's a very top and bottom model. There's very few at the top. There's a lot towards the bottom. It's like an 80-20, I guess, of like places that aren't being able to successfully run. And there's some places that are doing it really, really well. But those 80% are still serving a big chunk of the industry.
Yeah.
And people are getting burnt because they're going, I invested a lot of money here, and I didn't feel like I got what a value for that there. I didn't get the results that I was after. Now my shoulder's banged up because I didn't know what I was doing, and they couldn't help me on this here. And then, maybe I shouldn't train because maybe I'm just busted. I'm 35 now. I've had my sports days. I'm no longer an athlete anymore. Maybe I just need to give up on all this.
Yeah.
It's because we weren't good as an industry. We needed to be better so that somebody like that can have their program adapted for them, so they can have something that they actually is built around them, that's people first, that the person actually sits there and listens to them and goes, okay, cool. Yeah, no, we can work on this. We can work on this. These are some barriers that are going to come up, but we know that when that happens, we can do these things here. Like it's not a lack of care, because the fact is that everyone in the industry cares, because a lot of the people in the industry could make better money elsewhere, but they're not getting help from above them because there's nobody trying to teach them to help from above.
Yeah.
Everyone's just trying to chuck them straight in the deep end and just hope it works out.
Yeah, it's I agree, Jake, and I think it's so multifaceted, like how that happens. I think, like you said, people go out on their own and they open up a gym or a box or something like that, and then they're so busy in the day-to-day, and they're undercharging for their service, so they can't actually hire anyone anyway, and then they can't have the actual time to do anything, and it's this constant like rat wheel that they get stuck on, and like you said, it's just chewing people up and spitting them out, whether they stay in the industry or they try to go somewhere else. And there isn't enough consistency and enough, I guess, progression as an industry to give people what they deserve
and
as a service.
In reality, man, like coaches have such a fucking impact on people's lives.
Yeah.
Like how much like that one person can then, like, I think everyone that's played sport, they'll typically like have somebody they go back to as like that was their coach. That was the one that understood them, that listened to them and got the best out of them. That's the same with fitness. Like we always joke around and say like old trainers are like ex-boyfriends or girlfriends. Like as always, it's like the one that got away when you see those things there. Like somebody comes in and is like, oh, I just moved from Sydney. I used to train at this place. My coach was amazing. It's the best thing ever. And you're like, this is going to be a hard slog here because I'm going to have to like work through. I'm going to be compared to Johnny forever. Yeah. And every session, they're like, oh, Johnny used to do it this way, and like it was really good. And Johnny was probably really good, but the reality is that you're always in that other seat there of like where it's always that hard balance and have to be in the next person or the coach that they fell in love with because they changed their life.
Yeah.
And ultimately, we want more coaches to be able to have that impact on other people. But that requires us as an industry to get better. We need to be building our way up. We need to be taking positive practices and reteaching them, going, this is what works to keep people engaged in their training programs. This is what works to help them along the way when they have barriers, rather than just throwing people in the deep end and just like figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's ultimately the big fallout there is like we're losing too many coaches a couple of years in because they're not getting the ascension because they either can't get somebody to help them with the gaps they're having to get them to the next level, or two, they don't feel like there's a future in the career for them.
Yeah, I think they lose faith in the industry. Like, and it just won't ever serve them how they need to do the other things in their life.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
they often feel like that they're giving their all, they're giving their life, that maybe their best career years to something before they go and try to settle down and have kids, but it doesn't feel like it's giving them back the return for the effort they put in.
Yeah, I think that's why it consistently gets considered as a hobby job, and it's like, oh, you're doing this before you do your real job or whatever it may be.
And we still get that now, right? Like how many years in? 13 years in, it's like, oh, so what's going to be your real job?
Yeah, what are you going to do after that? But I'm confident it's changing. I know we're changing it, which we'll probably talk about soon. But
yeah, let's dive into it. Let's go.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
I guess that's the big thing there. And like one of the first big things is like, in terms of the change, it's like there's got to be a future for the clients as well as there's got to be a future for the coaches. They've got to be able to see themselves in the industry in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. Even if the consumer's like, oh yeah, in 15 years I want to be able to do it by myself. Like in a year I want to be able to do it by myself. You need to give them the tools.
Yeah, 100%.
But to give them the tools, you've got to have the tools as the coach. And to have the tools as the coach, you've got to get the reps in, the experience. You've got to have somebody help you along the way to navigate what those things are. Because when you're basically trying to do something that you don't know what that is, because there's no best practices. There are, but they're not shared publicly. Then it starts to feel like you don't have an answer and you can't find the answer. And that's where the importance of having somebody that's there ahead of you to pull you up along the way and help you navigate through those things there. What are some of the things, like you handle our team development overall at Newstrength. Talk about what ours looks like.
It's funny, hey, because when we talk about these things, it's so similar to coaching in itself. It's like understanding the individual, them as a person, where they're trying to head and what they want from the industry outside of a monetary return. Like, and it's understanding that, and that's what facilitates belief that the industry can facilitate that for them, and they can see that, and then they can actually develop and become the person of impact that they want to be through coaching, or if they move into a manager role or whatever it is. Except essentially they need to have confidence and belief that it can happen. And the way we do that is make sure that our vision's big enough that their vision can fit inside the vision. And I think that's what the industry lacks. Like, the industry's vision as a whole isn't big enough and purposeful enough for people's visions to fit inside it. So you have people like us that go out and make it their own. Where we've gone, and we've gone in a short way to say it, we've gone, this isn't good enough. We have to do this differently, and we're going to have to figure out how to do this, and then go through from there. So
to be fair, we don't have all the answers to that either. Like, but that's just the commitment that we're making to our coaches, to our team, and to the future of the industry, that we're here to try to figure this out.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're going to keep on fighting for it because of how much of an impact it had on our lives. Like, I'm not going to sit back and let the industry go to shit. Like, I want to change the standards, particularly the independent gyms, because the franchise gyms, they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
They're going to have their couple of years as they do, because a lot of the franchises are built around a piece of equipment or like a certain training trend or something like that. Like, they'll have their years and they'll trend their way up, but they've got a bit more practice on like the operations, and here's how things are done.
Yeah.
The struggle there as well is a lot of those aren't built around making careers either for coaches. Like, a lot of them are built around like a team of 2 or 3 people in a place.
Not, like a lot of the franchises too, I think the people that do that know that it's going to have a limitation of time. Like there will be a time where this franchise will no longer exist. So what do we do in that period of time? And generally they sell. Most of the time, if you see them, like they'll come up, they will generate X amount of revenue, and then it becomes a business opportunity, and they leverage that, and they sell and move on, and then whatever else happens. But there, like you said, there isn't the longevity of the approach, and that isn't there.
And then like I guess we look at these independent gyms, and they're the ones that I care about the most, because that's us. Like that's where we were looking for North Stars when we were first starting. It's like, who's doing this well?
All
who's
hype, no hype.
Yeah, who's the people that like they care so much about their community, and that's what, and they want to inspire. They want to inspire the mums and dads. They want to inspire the kids in their community to become their best, to live a healthy life, to get out of the pub, get in the gym and train hard, and then go and live their lives and do the things they want to do, to achieve the things they want to do in their lifetime. And that's what I've got a really special place in my heart for the independent gyms, because that's us. But these are the ones that are closing now. Like these are the hard reality is, like, I think there's been 6 gyms in Newcastle that have closed this year.
Yep.
And at
that
the same
that we know
of. Yeah. There's probably more at the same time. There's been a few open up. There's a few people that are jumping into the realm, which is great. But there's probably been more that have opened up in the realm of like the franchises.
Yep.
Like they're getting more market share, and generally because they've got good marketing systems. They know how to get people in the doors. They've got better operations. Like they've got an operations manual.
They've got one.
They've got one. Like
that was the key there.
I've got mine sitting right here, and it's still very bare. So that's to give you guys, like, we're flying the flag hard, but we're still also just trying to put that plane together in the air. So I think one of the things that we really stand for is we want to take the things that we believe in and show the other independent gyms that it can be done. Like you can have coaches that have got career opportunities there, that have got ascension models, that can grow into doing something, that can get out of the split shift life or the paid per hour model there, where you see so many coaches that are stuck on I don't want to take too many digs at people, but getting paid for half an hour on and then half an hour off because you didn't have a client booked in, but your job isn't getting clients booked in. Come on, guys, we're better than that. Like we've got to be better than that. It's 2025. The industry's been around for 25 years plus now. Mm-hmm. And still the standard of, we'll pay you for the hours that you're on the floor, but in between we need you to sit around here just in case we can get you somebody, but we're probably not going to get anyone in that time. So yeah, you can train or do something, whatever you like in that time, but we're not paying you for it. We've got to be better than that.
Yeah.
It's been how long?
100%.
Being able to offer part-time, full-time salary positions for people where they're not on split shifts, so they can be at home and put their kids in bed over night time. That's got to be the future that we're going towards. And for us, that's what it's about. Like we both, or Macy was, your daughter was born probably a year and a bit before my daughter Millie. But in that time, that gave us the pivot of like, we can't, as much as we love this, we can't be here all the time because that's going to put unnecessary stress on our families. And you add to that, like Jess works with us, my fiance, that then on that side there, we can't both be in the gym. While the kids are at home by themselves, like Millie would be just cooking up dinner for herself. That's a great image. I'll get Cliffy to put that in and make a little photo of that for us later. That might be the show note thumbnail. But we knew that there needed to be a change, and we knew that we needed to move towards that. And at first it was about, okay, how do we do that as the leaders of the business? But then as we've come along, we've realized that it's not just about how do we make that for the leaders of the business. How do you make that for everyone in the business? Mm. And it might not be every day. Like there might be a balance. Like you and I still work a couple of afternoons each. Yep. A lot of our coaches don't do splits, or all of our coaches don't do splits every day anymore. Yep. They might have 1 or 2 a week at most, and everyone's got a couple of afternoons off or a couple of mornings off or so during the week, so they can have a bit of a life outside of the gym and still have a career opportunity.
Yep.
That I think is like, that's one of the biggest pieces there. And then obviously, as you talked about, like the team development, the training development, finding those gaps there for the coaches that can help them develop into being the coach they want to be. Because a lot of guys, they come out of the Cert 3 and 4 and they know they don't know a lot.
Yeah. But
they don't know where to go.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think we won't dive too deep into all the little things, and that might be another episode of how we go about that. Like, what's the pathways for coaches? Where should they go to? But if you were telling a coach right now who's in that spot, they've done their certs, they're not able to quite, they know they need more, but they don't know where to go to get that and how to go about that. What would be your advice to them?
I think they need to seek out mentorship from someone or somewhere that does the reps, but not only that, I guess has the scores, like the runs on the board, but not only that, that's in alignment with their values and the impact that they want to make in the industry. Because the industry obviously isn't very regulated and it's a bit of the Wild West at times. You can't just go anywhere. Like you really need to have a think about like why are you in the industry? Why now? Why are you here? Who are you helping? Why are you helping them? And where are you taking them? And once you can get clear on that, and I know that's not an easy answer, but you need it. Like it's a non-negotiable. You need to understand that. And that'll develop and adapt over time. But who are you helping and why are you helping them? And it's not like, oh, I help busy people lose 5 kilos in 4 weeks. It's like, you need to have depth. You need to have the depth to understand where you're at and why you're there. And then you can seek someone out that's in alignment with that. And then that can be your North Star. And does that have to be your North Star forever? No, but you need to start somewhere. And as you develop and as you get your own runs on the board, you will have a greater depth of understanding of yourself in the industry and your clientele. And then you do that same thing again. You find who's most aligned, who is it, where are they, how can I get in those rooms with those people, and then you do that, and then you rinse and repeat. And Jacob and I still do that now with coaches and mentors. You have to continually be pushing towards that and continually asking yourself who, why, and how, and then you keep pushing towards that. It's something that never ends, and it's something that I encourage you to not think is a finished process. As soon as you stop developing or stop seeking that development, then I would encourage you to think about what does that mean to filter down to the clients that you're managing or influencing and leading.
I love it, Nathan. I think that's a great spot for us to finish up on. So wrapping up, I think the biggest thing is like the industry needs to be better. We're trying to make it a better place. We're trying to make those career opportunities where we're trying to fight against the grain because everyone else is just trying to stick to the same thing that's been done before, and that's because that's all they know.
Yep.
I think it's time for us as an industry to professionalize it, to make opportunities for careers, to make the realities better. Like how many people actually, like we've got really good retention from a standpoint, but how many people end up walking out of a gym after they've just gone in and they're the most excited ever? Too many. Like they fall off the wagon within 3 months. And I think that every coach that gets into the industry, they want to be making lasting change. They're not there to just cycle in another bunch of people for the next 6-week challenge. They're there to make a real change. And I think it's a bit of a rebellion that we're trying to make of moving away from the model that everyone's always used, but it's what's got to be done. And I'm excited to be behind that. I'm excited to be a part of it. And
I would, if there is coaches listening, I would like to ask the question because I think something to highlight there from what you're saying, Jake, and I'm obviously pumped up about it as well. I think the question that coaches and leaders in the industry need to ask, if they're not willing to do this, then what's the alternative? Like, will it be easy to make this transition? Obviously not. Like, it'll be hard and it'll take a lot of work, but is the alternative really acceptable? Like, is that really acceptable to have as an industry? I don't think it is. Like, I just think
not for something you care about, not for a piece of your life that obviously like you get into fitness not because of like the hours are generally pretty shit. Mm-hmm. The career prospects right now aren't great, but you get into fitness because of the impact that it had on your own life and that you want to make that impact on other people's lives. So if you're not willing to do those things, are you really actually in it for those reasons?
Exactly.
So I think there's no better way to wrap up, but just knowing that it's like there is a better way to the fitness industry, and we want to be a cornerstone into carving that path to moving forward and raising the standard for not only the industry, but particularly for our community. We want the people in Newcastle, to Lake Macquarie, to be able to live stronger lives, to be able to be the best versions of themselves. And I think that requires us as an industry to step up, to raise the standards so that we can do that.
It does. And I think that's a good invitation to everyone listening to this, do the same.
Yeah. If you're a coach and you're listening to this and you feel like this resonates for you, shoot us a message, DM us. We love to talk with other people in the industry. Like we are we're so pumped up about this stuff. We love talking to people about it and trying to raise the standard there collectively and finding people that are in alignment with it there. So, because ultimately we've got one gym. We can't change the lives of the community overall with one gym alone, and we need more coaches that are in alignment with us to make an impact.
100%. I think that's funny, and too how constantly, I know you get asked as well, Jake, but how often I hear, gosh, there's a lot of gyms opening up. Are you worried about all the competition? And I was like, no, I am not. Do you know how many people, do you know the population density around here? Like, no, I am not worried about that. All I am worried about that they hold a standard. Like, people need help. People need stronger connections. They need to understand themselves better. They need to understand that this development and this pursuit is something that you can do and have access to. And the more gyms opening that have the standards, the better. And there isn't competition. Like, we're in this together. Like, if you actually have your heart in this and you want to see real world change from this industry and from this service, then your worry shouldn't be what gym's opening up. It should be who's opening that gym and why. That's the actual concern. It's like, what are we doing? How are we doing it as an industry, and what is the standard? And like I said before, we invite you guys to raise the standard, and let's do a better job, and let's do it together.
I think that's a great way to wrap up on. That is the Newstrength Way, and we'll see you guys next week.
Do it.